On the evening of September 10th, 2001, a 31-year-old physician named Sneha Anne Philip walked into a department store near the World Trade Center and bought lingerie, a dress, pantyhose, bed linens, and 3 pairs of shoes. She paid with her husband's credit card. The surveillance cameras recorded her at 7:30 p.m. By the next morning, the towers had fallen, and Sneha Philip was gone. The shopping bags she carried out of that store were never found in her apartment. They were never recovered from ground zero. They were never seen again. In 2008, 7 years later, a court declared her a victim of September 11th, despite the fact that no one could prove she was ever there. Sneha Anne Philip was a physician. She was 31 years old. She lived with her husband, Dr. Ron Lieberman, a few blocks from the World Trade Center. On the morning of September 10th, 2001, she appeared in Manhattan Criminal Court for a hearing. She'd been charged with a misdemeanor, 3rd degree falsely reporting an incident. She pleaded not guilty. That afternoon, she returned to her apartment. According to her mother, they chatted online for about 2 hours via instant messenger. They discussed plans to visit the World Trade Center Mall. Between 4 and 5 p.m., Philip reportedly dropped off clothing at a neighborhood dry cleaner. At 7:30 p.m., she was recorded on surveillance cameras at Century 21, a department store near the World Trade Center. She made several purchases. Then she went to a Century 21 annex and bought 3 pairs of shoes. That's the last verified sighting of her. What remains known about Sneha Philip comes almost entirely from that single day. Let's walk through what happened after 7:30 p.m. on September 10th. Sneha Philip left Century 21. She did not return to her apartment that night. At least there's no evidence she did. At 4 a.m. on September 11th, someone called her husband's cell phone. The call came from their apartment landline. Ron Lieberman was asleep at a colleague's apartment. He didn't recall answering the call, though he thought he might have briefly checked his voicemail. At 6:30 a.m., Lieberman left for work. Philip had not returned. At 8:43 a.m., 3 minutes before American Airlines Flight 11 struck the North Tower, surveillance footage in the lobby of 225 Rector Place showed a woman entering the building. She walked toward the elevator. She waited for a few minutes. Then she left. The image quality was poor. The woman appeared only in silhouette, but family members and an NYPD investigator later said the hair and dress style were consistent with Sneha Philip's appearance. When Lieberman returned on September 12th, the apartment was empty. There was dust everywhere, soot from the towers. If she returned to the apartment at some point between 7:30 p.m. on September 10th and 8:43 a.m. on September 11th, she would have brought the bags with her, but they weren't there. If she never returned to the apartment and she never went to the towers, then where was she? Now, the 4 a.m. phone call. Someone called Ron Lieberman's cell phone from the apartment landline at 4 in the morning. Lieberman didn't recall answering. He thought he might have checked voicemail, but he wasn't sure. If Sneha Philip made that call, it means she was in the apartment at 4 a.m. But when Lieberman returned on September 12th, there were no signs anyone had been there. The dust from the towers had settled over everything. There were no footprints, no disturbances, nothing to indicate human presence after the towers fell. Then there's the lobby video, the woman who entered the building at 8:43 a.m. The silhouette, the hair, the dress. Family members believed it was Sneha Philip. An NYPD investigator believed it was her, but the image quality was too poor to confirm. The woman's face wasn't visible. Her clothing couldn't be identified with certainty. If she'd been out all night, Why enter the lobby, wait by the elevator, and then leave without going upstairs? If it wasn't Philip, then who was it? Let's summarize what's verified. Philip was last seen on surveillance footage at 7:30 p.m. on September 10th, leaving Century 21 with shopping bags. At 4 a.m. on September 11th, someone called her husband's phone from their apartment landline. At 8:43 a.m., a woman resembling Philip appeared in the building lobby, stayed briefly, and left. At 8:46 a.m., the North Tower was struck. The shopping bags were never found. No remains or personal effects belonging to Philip were ever recovered from Ground Zero. That's what's known. Everything else is interpretation. So, what happened? There are two ways to read this case. Both fit some of the evidence. Neither can be proven. Sneha Philip spent the night of September 10th somewhere other than her apartment. On the morning of September 11th, she returned to the area. She may have entered the lobby of her building at 8:43 a.m. She may have decided not to go upstairs. She may have walked toward the World Trade Center instead. Philip was a physician. When the first plane hit at 8:46 a.m., she may have responded instinctively. She may have gone to help. She may have entered one of the towers or been nearby when they collapsed. Thousands of people died at Ground Zero. Many of their remains were never identified. Approximately 1,300 unclaimed items were recovered from the site, and DNA testing continues. But not everyone who died there left identifiable remains. This explanation accounts for her proximity to the site. It accounts for her medical training. It accounts for the timing. And it accounts for the absence of remains, because remains from Ground Zero are still unidentified. It doesn't fully account for the 4 a.m. phone call, and it doesn't explain where she was between 7:30 p.m. on September 10th and 8:43 a.m. on September 11th. But in 2008, a New York State Appeals Court ruled it was highly probable that Philip died at the World Trade Center. The court acknowledged alternative theories existed, but stated they relied on what it called rankest speculation. The court declared her a victim of September 11th. Sneha Philip disappeared sometime between 7:30 p.m. on September 10th and the early morning of September 11th. The 4 a.m. phone call came from an apartment that showed no signs of her return, and the woman in the lobby video, if it was even her, left the building without explanation. If something happened to Philip on the night of September 10th, the collapse of the towers the next morning would have made it almost impossible to investigate. The chaos, the scale of the disaster, the focus on thousands of confirmed victims, a single missing person with no body, no witnesses, and no clear timeline would have been absorbed into the larger tragedy. This explanation accounts for the missing shopping bags. It accounts for the lack of physical evidence in the apartment. It accounts for the strange timing of the 4 a.m. call. And it accounts for why no trace of her was found at Ground Zero, because she was never there. But it requires someone to have harmed her, hidden her, or caused her to disappear in the hours before the towers fell. And there's no evidence of who that would have been, or why, or how. The NYPD investigated Philip's personal and professional life. They found she'd been fired from Cabrini Medical Center for tardiness and alcohol-related issues. She was facing legal trouble. Her family disputed these characterizations, saying she'd been a whistleblower facing racism and harassment. But either way, there's no confirmed evidence of foul play. This explanation asks, what are the chances that a woman disappeared in Lower Manhattan on the night of September 10th? and then the towers fell the next morning, and the two events were unrelated. The appeals court called it speculation, but the question remains. If Sneha Philip returned to her apartment, the bags should have been there. They weren't. If she went to the World Trade Center, the bags might have been recovered from the site. They weren't. If she spent the night somewhere else, the bags would have been with her or left behind where she stayed. No one reported finding them. The bags aren't dramatic evidence. They don't prove guilt. They don't prove innocence. They don't point to a specific location or a specific person, but they mark a boundary. They're the last confirmed objects in her possession. After 7:30 p.m. on September 10th, the bags existed. After that moment, they vanished along with her. At the time, buying bed linens and shoes at a department store near your apartment would have seemed ordinary. Later, it became the last known thing she did. Sneha Anne Philip was declared a victim of the September 11th attacks in 2008. The legal ruling provides closure for benefits and official recognition, but it does not explain where she was between 7:30 p.m. on September 10th and 8:46 a.m. on September 11th. No remains have been identified. No witness has come forward to say they saw her at the World Trade Center that morning. The case is officially closed, but the record remains narrow. Did she die trying to help victims when the towers fell? Or did something happen the night before? Something the disaster made impossible to investigate. The court ruled one explanation was highly probable, but probability is not proof. And the question remains, where did she go after she left that store? What do you think happened? Did she die at the towers? Or did something happen the night before? Leave your theory below. Subscribe for more cases where the answers don't exist.